Okay, welcome back. Hope you're all having a great week. Today we're continuing our RBT exam practice question series where we're going through a series of practice questions, breaking them down together. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. If you're looking for our proven study materials, please check out rbtexamreview.com. We offer 3 practice exams, task list study guide, and our combo pack, which includes flashcards. It's our best deal. We also offer our competency study guide as well. Congratulations to all the RBTs who recently passed their exam. When you pass, let us know. We'd love to include you in our shout out. Other than that, questions in the comments, please email me or leave a comment below. Work hard, study hard. Let's get to our questions. Question 1. When you drop your daughter off at daycare, you give them 5 full bottles to feed her throughout the day. If you want to measure how many bottles they use, what would be the best measurement system to use? Now, let's be careful on this question because 2 of these answer choices are going to seem plausible, seem like you can use them, but we need to think about what each measurement system would require. So in this case, you're giving the daycare 5 full bottles to feed her throughout the day. Obviously, if you're going to measure how many bottles they use, you're going to want to know you want to count how many bottles are empty or have used. So out of the 5, let's say 4 are empty, you'll know they used 4. Now, the issue is you dropping her off at daycare. So you're not going to be there to see them actually use the bottles. The best way you're going to be able to measure it is when you pick her up, you're going to be giving the 5 bottles back, and then you can make your measurement. So what type of measurement are you not required to be there, but you're only measuring the result or the production of a behavior? Are you looking at rate? Well, rate would be, let's say, bottles per hour or bottles per minute or bottles per day. We're not measuring anything per day, per minute, per hour. We're just looking at this day and how many bottles they use. And we're not there to actually see the behavior occur. So rate is not going to be the best one to choose. Frequency is going to help us give a count, okay? But again, for frequency, to get the most accurate type of frequency, we need to actually observe them feeding the daughter the bottles. But since we can't do that, our best measurement is going to be based on the product or the result of whatever behavior they're using to feed the bottles. So if we want to measure how many bottles they use, we're going to use permanent product. And this is why at the beginning I said to be careful because it's a little tricky. Now, this is best answer. Okay. The exam wants best answer. And in this case, yes, you're still counting to use permanent product, but at the end of the day, it is permanent product. So we need to use permanent product ultimately to measure, given that we aren't there to actually see the feeding occur. And then into response time, of course, should be time in between bottles or in between feedings. We're not there, so we cannot measure IRT. Given our situation, the best way to measure how many bottles have been used throughout the day is C, permanent product. John's BCBA is creating a program to teach their client how to put gas in their car. Putting gas in the car involves several steps, including paying for the gas and picking the type of gas you want. What must happen before the task chain can start? Before we can actually implement our task chain, before we can forward chain, before we can backward chain, before we can teach any steps in the chain, what do we need? Well, we need an actual chain, right? We need the chain first before we can teach the chain. John's BCBA understands that to put gas in the car, we're going to need to pay for the gas. We need to get to the pump. We need to pick the type of gas. There's all these different steps involved with putting gas in your car. And in order to figure out that order, what does John's BCBA need to do? Does he need to forward chain? Remember, forward chaining isn't designing the chain. Forward chaining is a procedure we're using to teach the chain. We're not there yet. We're worried about what happens before the task chain can start. So what about a task analysis? Yes, before our task chain can start, we need to analyze the chain, the task chain, to create the task chain. So John is going to analyze the task of putting gas in the car, break each step down, create a chain, and that's what we're going to teach. Always remember, before a task chain has to be a task analysis. Task analysis creates the task chain. No shaping because we're not teaching yet. And no preference assessment because we're not necessarily worried about the reinforcement aspect yet, right? We're still still aren't to the part where we're actually teaching anything. Key word here is before, which is why you need to read carefully. Before the task chain can even start, what do we need to do? We need to create a task chain. How do we create a task chain? With a B, task analysis. Which of the following would be considered a secondary reinforcer? This question is pretty easy as long as we understand what a secondary reinforcer is. Think about our two types of reinforcers, other than not positive and negative, but just the types of reinforcers. We would have a unconditioned and a conditioned. An unconditioned reinforcer would be a reinforcer that's unlearned. It's just born with it or innate. A conditioned reinforcer would be a reinforcer that's learned or paired, such as a token or money. Another way to say unconditioned would be primary reinforcer. Another way to say conditioned would be secondary reinforcer. Given this information, which of the following would be considered a secondary reinforcer? So this would be a conditioned reinforcer. A, food after not eating for several hours. Is food unconditioned or conditioned? Ask yourself, when we're born, do we need to eat? Yes. Given long enough without food, food will become a reinforcer. No matter what, food is going to be a primary or a unconditioned reinforcer. What about drinking water after a long workout? Does everyone need to drink water to live? Yes. Again, it's unconditioned. It's unlearned. We don't have to learn, okay, that drinking water keeps us alive. Given long enough without water, we're going to start being reinforced by water. C, receiving a token after engaging in the target behavior. Do tokens have reinforcing properties before they're paired with other things? Not necessarily, right? Think about money. Before we know money is used to purchase things, money has no value. It gets its value as a secondary or a conditioned or a learned reinforcer. And then D, turning on the air conditioner on a hot day. Now, careful here, right? Think about the air condition. Yes, the air condition, okay, might be the reinforcer, but the air condition is not actually the actual reinforcer, right? The air condition is the means to the reinforcer, which is comfort. It's cooling yourself down. And comfort and seeking cool when we're hot and seeking hot when we're cold are considered unlearned behaviors. Again, everybody innately seeks these things, right? These are unconditioned. Given long enough, comfort is going to be reinforcing. The only one that is learned and conditioned is going to be this token. Tokens and money, tokens, money, and praise are the three most common types of conditioned or secondary reinforcers. Grant and Dave want to watch the football game, but their mom wants them to do their chores. Their mom tells them if they complete half their chores, they can watch the football game before doing the other half of the chores. What intervention is the mom using? Slow down. When you get a question that gets moderately long or has a lot going on, first thing you need to do is slow down, understand what the question is asking. So what intervention is the mom using? We're looking at the mom's behavior here. Okay, so we know Grant and Dave want to watch the football game, but their mom wants them to do their chores. So the mom says what? The mom says, if you complete half your chores, you can watch the football game. What is the mom doing? She's using access to their preferred activity, the football game, as a reinforcer for getting them to engage in the non-preferred or less preferred activity of completing their chores. What intervention is that called? What intervention is it when we use access to a preferred activity as a reinforcer for a non-preferred activity? Is this the pre-mat principle? It is, also known as grandma's law. We are allowing the learner to engage in their preferred activities contingent upon them completing whatever task or behavior we want them to. So if mom says, if you complete half your chores, then you can watch your football game. It's not a high P request sequence. Remember, pre-met principle and high P are not the same thing. In a lot of ways, they're the opposite. Pre-met principle, the low preferred activity comes first. High P, the high preferred or high probability request comes first, right? High P is when we want to build behavior momentum by asking or getting the learner to engage in high probability request and then following up with the low probability request. It's not what the mom is doing. The mom is doing the opposite, right? We're not shaping here because these skills are already known as far as we know. And we're not prompting. It's not a prompt. The pre-mat principle is not a prompt. Okay, the pre-map principle is a contingency. There's a difference. Understand the difference between an if-then statement and a prompt. Mom, as far as we know, isn't using prompts. She just set up a contingency in the form of the pre-map principle, meaning if you complete what I want you to do, then you can engage in your preferred activity. Which of the following measurements uses frequency as a component? Don't overthink this. Think about your types of measurements. Our continuous measurements, we have duration, frequency, rate, latency, and IRT. Now, obviously, frequency uses frequency as a component. That's not going to be an answer choice. So out of the other ones, what uses frequency as a component? We have inter-response time, latency, rate, and duration. You can immediately eliminate duration because when we're using duration, we're measuring time, right? We're measuring total time. We're not worried about how often something's occurring. We're worried about how long something is occurring. With inter-response time, we're not worried about how often it's occurring. We're worried about the time that it's occurring, right? Meaning the time in between responses, okay? Not the number of responses necessarily, but the time in between those responses. Latency, again, is time-based. We're worried about the time in between the SD and the first response. So what measurement uses frequency? Well, it's going to be rate. And why is it going to be rate? Well, rate is frequency over time. Frequency is directly in the formula for rate. In order to get rate, we need both frequency and time. Without one of those two, we can't find rate. So of the following measurements, what uses frequency as a component? Rate. Linda arrives at her session as usual, except today, her client and his parents are ready with balloons and a cake to celebrate her birthday. They also want to give her a $20 Starbucks gift card. How should Linda respond? Okay. New ethical code says what? What does it say about gifts and food and things like that? Well, it's more relaxed now. In the past, before the new ethical code, RBTs and BCBAs weren't allowed to accept gifts or food no matter what. They've loosened it a bit to include gifts of $10, gifts and food of $10, and gifts and food that don't happen all the time, right? For special occasions. So in this case, if her client wants to give her some cake and a $20 Starbucks gift card, how can Linda respond? A, leave immediately to avoid any dual relationship or conflict of interest. Unless Linda arrived for a birthday party off the clock, this is not Linda's fault. There's no dual relationship here, right? As long as this is just a normal cultural thing, right? Where you know it's someone's birthday, so you get them balloons, and Linda still does her session, there's really no conflict of interest here. If Linda goes back in 2 days for another follow-up birthday party off the clock, well, that's different. Now we're into some sort of dual relationship. But as far as this is concerned, as long as she's at her session on the clock and does her session, she's not doing anything wrong. B, thank them for the party, eat a piece of cake, and take the gift card. She should thank them, right? She can eat a piece of cake as long as that cake isn't $10 or more, but she cannot take the gift card. Why is that? Well, the gift card is over $10 in value, and the ethical code, which we need to be black and white with on the exam, says no gifts over $10, so she cannot take the gift card. C, refuse the gift card but accept a single slice of cake if offered, assuming the slice of cake is less than $10. All right, so far, this is the best answer. All right. She doesn't need to leave. She's refusing the gift card, which is over that $10 value. And if offered, right, she's going to take a piece of cake, assuming it's less than $10, which I'm sure that slice of cake is. So far, C is the best way Linda can handle the situation, the most ethical way to handle the situation. And then D, turn down the offer of cake, but take the gift card. Well, no, because why? Because the gift card is the gift that is valued at more than $10. We can't take any gifts valued at more than $10. The best option here, the most ethical, because Linda being there and them giving her balloons, as long as Linda is completing her session is on the clock, is not totally unethical, right? But she can't take the gift card. She can accept a piece of cake as long as it's under $10 and as long as it doesn't happen all the time. So how should Linda respond? Refuse the gift card, but accept a single slice of cake if offered, assuming the slice of cake is less than $10. Just be very careful about the gift questions now. The magic number is $10, and the major component is to remember the gift can't happen all the time. So it needs to be Christmas, right? Or birthday. Very, very, very sporadically, not all the time. A type of communication system where a person uses pictures to communicate in exchange for wants and needs is called what? All right, this isn't really a application question. It's more of a definition question. I like to include these to make you aware of these different things that you might see on the exam and that you'll definitely see in your practice as a technician. So this type of communication system where a person uses pictures to communicate in exchange for wants and needs is called what? And you might have heard this before, right? This is that little binder or that little board people carry around. They have pictures, and then they will give those pictures, to whoever in exchange for something else to meet their needs. There are digital versions of this called Proloquo, or they have different names, but the most common is a Proloquo. They're augmentative communication devices. This type of communication system specifically is called what? Is it PECS? Is it picture exchange communication system? Or is it sign language? Well, obviously it's not sign language, right? We're using these pictures to communicate in exchange for wants and needs. It's going to be a picture exchange communication system. Now, you might have heard of this. You might have not. And that's okay if you haven't. I'm trying to make you aware. If you see the acronym PECS, it's just the same thing. It's this system of communication where we have tokens or pictures or whatever that we're using to communicate wants and needs. So a type of communication system where a person uses pictures to communicate and exchange is called PECS or picture exchange communication system. You order a package off of Wayfair. They send you a UPS tracking number, which takes you to a site that tells you your package is estimated to be delivered to your front door between 10 and 12 p.m. Which of the following reinforcement schedules best matches this delivery schedule? Basic reinforcement schedules. Don't get confused. Always think about, is my schedule fixed, meaning one set time and one set response, or is it an average? Is there different times or different responses? And then am I dealing with the number of responses or am I dealing with time? Well, in this case, we know our package is delivered to the front door sometime between 10 and 12 p.m. Is this time-based or is it response-based? Well, you need to ask yourself, if you check your front door a million times before the package is there at 10 a.m., will it matter? No. It's got nothing to do with how many times you check your front door. It's all based on this time. You're going to be reinforced the first time you check after the scheduled delivery time, right? If you start checking at 8 a.m., you can check all you want. It's not getting there until 10 a.m. So it's not going to be based on responses. Responses have nothing to do with it. The more responses you engage in changes nothing. You don't just get more reinforcement. You're never getting reinforcement until the time limit is hit, okay? So we know it's an interval schedule, meaning it needs to be C or D. Now, is it fixed or is it an average? Well, if it can be anywhere between 2 and 12 p.m., it can be 10 a.m., 10:15 a.m., 11:45 a.m., maybe even 12 p.m. So sometime in between 10 and 12 p.m., you're going to get reinforced with your package, meaning it's on an average of the time. It's variable. So if we have a reinforcement schedule based on time, based on an average amount of time, we know it's going to be a variable interval schedule. And 10 and 12 p.m., it's going to be an average of 11 a.m. This is how we need to approach reinforcement schedule questions, okay? Fixed or variable, meaning not changing or changing, and then ratio or interval based on responses, based on time. If you can do that, if you can answer those questions, you'll always get these right. So we're based on a variable interval 11 a.m., meaning at some point, on average, your package will be delivered at 11 a.m., meaning after that package is delivered, the next time you open your front door, you will receive reinforcement. Developing a professional relationship, making small talk, and informing parents of what happened during session are all part of what? This is a crucial skill for RBT to have, not only for clients, but for parents. Extremely important for clients, don't get me wrong, but also for parents. You want that parent to be comfortable with you. You want that parent to like you. You want that parent to feel safe with you. You want that parent to feel that their kid is safe with you. And you do that by doing these things, right? You develop a professional relationship. As a technician, you're in a professional job. You need to act like it. So when you're at someone's home, be professional. When you make small talk, right, you develop a very casual relationship. right? We're not going deeper, but we're just being polite. And then you want to inform parents of what happened during session, right? They have the right to know. All these are part of what? Is it a dual relationship? Well, no, you're not engaging in a dual relationship. This is strictly professional. Remember, dual relationship means professional, crosses the line to personal. It's not a conflict of interest. A conflict of interest is usually a product of a dual relationship. You are just trying to develop this professional, casual relationship. An unethical relationship, as long as you're just doing these things and it's not going any further, it's not unethical. You are simply building rapport. Building rapport is extremely important. Again, not just for clients, but also for parents and stakeholders. They need to trust you. Your BCBA needs to trust you, and they need to want you working with their child. And you can do this by developing this professional relationship, making small talk, polite small talk, and informing them of what happened during session. They're all parts of building rapport. All right, thank you so much for watching. Please check out rbtexamreview.com for all of our study materials. If you are new to the channel, welcome. Please like and subscribe. We offer 3 full practice exams, a task list study guide, and our combo pack. As always, work hard, study hard. I'll see you soon.